marry Kutsch, and I now live in Colorado Springs with my husband and my daughter.
Awesome. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your life?
Well, we moved here probably 2.5 years ago after Bill had had cancer, throat cancer from Agent Orange. He had 13 sites of stage 4 cancer. At the same time, my daughter had gone to the Air Force. She wanted to serve her country like her father and her brother, and 3 weeks she had a nervous breakdown and spent the next 3 months in the medical ward at Laughlin Air Force Base. And then she came home, and then we found out Bill had cancer, and then we lost our home, and then we just kind of proceeded taking care of Bill and getting him to his treatments and trying to help him make it through the cancer, because most times people with stage 4 don't make it as many, but they radiated and chemoed and did everything. And at the same time, it helped my daughter not think about herself so much, because now she had to help take care of her father. And we got her in college, and she started to do really good again. And so we just have spent the last 7 years trying to survive and recover and rebuild. And fortunately, 2 years ago, we were able to buy a little condo in Colorado Springs, and there's an incredible college there for my daughter to go to, and she's a senior there now, and she has a job very close. And I've retired from my job, and Bill and I just kind of hang out and, you know, try and live every day. And we didn't really realize about the Agent Orange until he got cancer. I had had 6 miscarriages during our time together, and what they used to tell me was that I was just not very lucky. And because I could get pregnant, my 2 older boys, who I did not give birth to but I've raised since they were 4 and 5, are very, very healthy. And then when I got pregnant with Rose, I was able to keep her, but it ended up that she had some kind of problem, but we weren't sure. So there was a blockage in her intestines. And through this process, we found out that this was all, actually, through the process of Bill having cancer, we found out that all of my miscarriages and Rose's birth were all caused by Agent Orange. She had a blockage in her intestines. So the fluid stayed inside of my body, and so I used to have to go and have 2 liters of fluid every couple weeks drained off of my stomach so that she would not be born premature. So and she ended up being premature anyway, because my body just couldn't keep going. And they tested the amniotic fluid, and once they knew her lungs were okay, then they scheduled me to have an early delivery. And it ended up she had to be taken emergency C-section, because the cord wrapped around her stomach or her neck, and then she was operated on the next day.
Most people in this country probably don't even know the effects of Agent Orange, or that Agent Orange could affect more than the person who was originally exposed.
No, you know what? We didn't know that. I was making some jokes during chemotherapy, and the nurses brought me information that, you know, told me some of the symptoms of Agent Orange. One of my babies had spinal bifida, and its heart was outside of its body, so it was viable enough to continue, but it would never have been a baby once it was born. It would have been more a mass of tissue and organs, and I decided not to do that. They wanted to do testing and research, but I just, after having so many miscarriages, I wasn't able to bring a baby to full term knowing that it was going to die. So, But it was interesting. Yeah, I wasn't not lucky. It was Agent Orange that killed all of my babies. And there's a difference between my boys are 42 and 43, and my daughter is 25. So where the Agent Orange didn't affect my older boys, it did affect my daughter years later, and then affected my husband because my husband did not smoke. And so all of a sudden he has 13 sites all through his mouth, his tongue, his esophagus, and his throat. And he's actually a miracle. And just recently he has come back. You know, he's always been with me, but he kind of lived in his own little chemo world. You know, his own. You know, he was sick for so long. But it's been really nice. As I tell everybody, I said, my boyfriend's back. You know, I mean, we laugh and we talk, but it's been 7 years.
7 years.
Yeah.
That's the Agent Orange part of it. There's another part you had to deal with too with Bill, isn't it? Following Vietnam, and that's the post-traumatic stress.
Which has been horrible. Well, you know what? When I was young, I didn't understand. You know, he would have rages and fits and you know, so I tried to make you know, a special place for my boys so that they wouldn't be in the way when he had, because you never knew when they were coming. So I protected them a lot. He went through a lot of drugs when he was younger. And I didn't understand. There was nobody to talk to. There was no information. People thought that I was crazy, but I loved him, and I knew that he loved me, and I knew the things. He never remembered any of these horrible things that he did. You know, like I can remember one night lying on the floor with a knife in my throat because he thought I was Vietnamese. I can remember him having rages and picking me up and, you know, throwing me across rooms, and not remembering that he ever did that to me. Or he'd say, well, why do you have a bruise? And I'd look at him like, well, you hit me. And he says, no, you're making those things up. And it wasn't until we lived in Las Vegas, I had a psychiatrist who was helping me, who was a naval doctor. And he asked me one day, he said, do you think that your husband loves you? And I said, I know he loves me. And he said, how do you think that he would feel if he knew he did all of these things to you? And I told him I think he would be upset. And he said, Mary, they've trained them. They've programmed them to take these things and block them out of their life. And they don't remember these things that they've done. And I think that that's part because they've had to suppress all of this. And it comes up, you know, the triggers. It comes up. And I told Bill about it, and he sometime later told me that he was sorry that he hurt me, that he doesn't remember ever doing any of those things to me, and that he's sorry that he hurt me. And it did a lot to ease my pain, you know, did a lot to ease the pain. Because there was a lot of pain for a long, 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 long time.
You had to suffer in silence too. You didn't have anyone to talk to, did you?
No, I couldn't tell anybody that. What kind of broke my silence was the day that he hit me in my face. And I couldn't hide anymore. You know, I had been brought up to hide everything. My father was an alcoholic. Nobody knew that he was an alcoholic. I was trained to keep secrets and push it down and keep on moving. But when he hit me in my face, I couldn't hide anymore. And I got a lot of people abandoned me because they thought I was stupid.
They thought you were stupid?
Because I allowed him to hit me.
Because you stayed with him?
Because I stayed with him, but I know that when he hit me, he wasn't there. My husband was, the person who loves me wasn't there. It was a crazy person, you know. And I've seen, you know, that's what happened to us in January. I hadn't seen that crazy person in a long time, you know, mostly because he had been so sick. And we were driving down the highway. We had just been to see my sister who is dying. We'd been to his family. We'd been away from home for a while. So, you know, I try and keep our life very quiet because it's easier for us. And we were driving down the highway, and I get flustered. I have PTSD now too, and panic attacks and all of this because I've always lived on the edge. But we were driving down, and he's screaming at me, and all of a sudden he hits me. And that hadn't been something that had happened to me in a really long time, and it really threw me into it just threw me into a really dark place for most of this past year. And you know, so I keep thinking, you know, sometimes maybe I am crazy, you know. So I go and I seek help, and I think it actually kind of ended up being like a breakthrough. He was trying to come back, but I had been the caretaker for so long that I didn't recognize that the man was back. You know, the man came back, and it took us probably until June. You know, we almost got divorced a few months ago, and we've been together for almost 40 years. But it's just, and the PTSD is still here. It never goes away. But it's a lot calmer now that, you know, we moved here so he could smoke cannabis because it does help him, and it calms him down. But like I said, we do spend an awful lot of time quiet at home. We go to stores when they're not busy. We try not to go to things with big groups of people. We went to Disneyland for my 60th birthday, and he did really, really well. But we hit a point, and that was it, and he ran out. I mean, he ran out of Disneyland. He couldn't take it anymore. You know, and you never know when it's going to happen or why. You know, you spend your life walking on eggshells.
The triggers.
Yeah, because you don't really know what they are. I've learned through having some therapy recently to not play the PTSD game with him, because I have become a reactionary. He screams and yells, and I fight back. I fight back to protect myself, but that doesn't make it better, because that could get me hurt. You know, if I fight back, so I try really hard to keep my mouth shut, but it's very difficult. It's hard to shut up. But you know, even just driving down here today, or driving up here, you know, the traffic gets bad, and I can feel, you know, he uses the car like a weapon, you know, and I can feel the tension, and I get scared, and he laughs. He thinks it's funny. You know, it's kind of sick. But it's crazy. But when I started looking for help, and there are so many of the kids that are coming home from Iraq and Afghanistan that are so like us when we were young, but they're so lucky because they have somewhere to go to get help. You know, and I actually had to get off of it because their pain was so horrible to me. I just wanted to get on there and say, you know, I know you love them, but run. It's a horrible life, run. You know, I wouldn't trade my life for anything in the world. I love my husband, my children, but it's been tough. It's been hard. You know, every time I build us up, he does something to destroy us. You know, one year he had 15 jobs. many times he just didn't work at all. So I would work twice as much, and I'd get us a new home, and I'd get us a new place to live, and we've started our life over millions and millions of times. And we're sitting in a really good place today, where my daughter's good, Bill's good, he's cancer-free, and he's feeling good. He's 100% disabled, and we have a new home, but I sit on that edge, just
not knowing,
waiting. I'm afraid to relax and enjoy, because I gave up an incredible business in Las Vegas where I used to travel and teach, and then I had a salon, and I gave it all up because he wanted me to be home. He wasn't doing well in Las Vegas. He was sitting in a chair, not getting dressed, not taking showers, not putting his teeth in, not doing anything, and just sitting there. And I'd be in Canada or someplace traveling for days. On one of my trips, when I got home, he told me he got fired. He just couldn't take it anymore. Couldn't work. He can't go to work anymore. He can't get along with people. He has really high integrity and really high standards, and he can't understand why people don't do what they're supposed to. He's still in military form.
After all these years, how long has it been since he was in the military now?
Well, he was there 68, 69, so it's been over 40 years.
He's carried all this, all that time. You both have carried this all this time.
He's still there. He's still there. His body is here, but his spirit is still in Vietnam. I mean, we can't have windows open. We can't leave our doors open. We double lock, triple lock, everything, and we check them 15 million times. One of the reasons that I chose the place that we live in, Colorado Springs, is because it was in a secure building, and we were on the second floor. Nobody could get to us, because I wanted him to be safe. He feels safer there, but he never, ever, ever feels safe. I saw a saying, and it says it takes a strong person to love a warrior whose battle never, ever ends. Never, ever. There isn't a day that goes by that Bill doesn't talk about Vietnam. When I was in Vietnam, this is like Vietnam. Everything is Vietnam. One of the things that's helped him is after 40-some years, he's gotten back together with his group, the men that he was with, and we've gone to a couple reunions in Branson, Missouri, and the boys are so happy to be together again, and they laugh and they cry, and all of us women who the very first time we were all scared, what would happen when we all got together. And the women bonded instantly. We were sisters who had been through hell and who had made it. And without really getting to know each other, we were sisters. And we keep tabs now, because a lot of our guys are dying. The Agent Orange is really the diabetes, the prostate cancer, the lung problems. I haven't heard so much of their children having problems, but not like we did with all the babies. But I'm sure if they spent some time looking into some of the things that have happened to their children or them, they would know that it was Agent Orange. And I asked Bill, how did you know that you were sprayed with Agent Orange? And he said, they sprayed it everywhere. We walked through it constantly. They sprayed it when we were walking to clear out the jungles. He talks about them dropping napalm and his clothes burning off because he was too close. you know, the things that he came home with, the jungle rot on his feet, and the scars and things that were on his legs from his clothes rotting off of him because of the moisture, which ironically a lot of it has been taken care of through chemotherapy. You know, it killed everything. You know, it was interesting when he was so sick. I asked him, you know, how do you do this? How do you do this? And he told me that he loved me and he didn't want to leave me. And so he was bearing all of this pain to be able to stay with me. You know, I mean, sometimes I feel like I've lived in Vietnam with him. I've been in those foxholes. I've watched the guy's head blown off behind him when he didn't duck like he was supposed to. I can, from some of the times when he did too many drugs, I ended up seeing the horrible things, you know, because I guess I was just too close, you know. I could hear the guns and I could hear the grenades and the crying and the screaming, and I wasn't there. You know, I can't imagine what's in his head. You know, physical stuff. These kids are going to come back. You think Agent Orange is bad? You wait years from now. The chemicals that these kids have been exposed to in Iraq and Afghanistan, the burning pits where they throw everything into the burning pits. You know, it's Agent Orange all over again. It's like we don't learn. We keep sending our children and then we bring them home and we ignore them, you know, and then we wonder why they're living on the streets and they're doing drugs and they're killing themselves. Every day so many kill themselves. You know, Bill's been real close in the last few years, just wanting to die. You know, just can't take it anymore. Yeah. So thank you for what you're doing. I appreciate you teaching people and maybe bringing some understanding. You know, instead of walking by these homeless Vietnam vets and turning up your nose, you know, because they smell or because they're dirty or because a lot of them are schizophrenic. You know, they're mentally ill. You know, do something. Don't ignore them. Don't ignore them. You know, we have to take care of each other. It's a strange life. You know, I look back and I think, why did God put me here to do this? You know, it's. Do you ever wonder why God put you here? Why you go through what you do? I mean, I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, but I ask why. You know. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. But I know I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Pretty awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I gotta give you a hug.
Okay. You did good. I didn't cry.
You did wonderful. It wouldn't have mattered if you did.
Oh, I didn't want to cry. I'm scared of what would happen to me if I just let go.
Yeah. I know that feeling.
Yeah.
I'm still holding on too.
We have to hold on.